Good evening. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, but before we do the invocation and the roll call, we have a couple of presentations. Mayor?
Mr. President, thank you, and council. Thank all of you for being in attendance this evening. The first proclamation is to honor National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. I'm going to ask 5 people to come up here with me. We have Ray Shrout, who's the CEO of Affinity Hospice. We have Lee Nunn, she's the COO, and also Jamie and Q and Todd. Lee, did I get it right?
You did.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank y'all very much for being here. So it's a proclamation for National Hospice and Palliative Care Month. Whereas 2017 marks the 50th anniversary of St. Christopher's Hospice in London, widely recognized as the first modern-day hospice organization, and the 35th anniversary of the Medicare hospice benefit in the United States. And whereas hospice and palliative care offer those they serve the high quality of care delivered by an interdisciplinary team of skilled professionals and trained volunteers that include physicians, nurses, social workers, therapists, counselors, health aides, spiritual care providers, and more. And whereas the hospice and palliative care philosophy places the needs of the individual at the center of care, allowing patients and family caregivers to focus on quality of life, surrounded and supported by family and loved ones, despite serious and life-limiting illness. And whereas every year, more than 1.5 million Americans living with life-limiting illness and their families received care from the nation's hospice programs in communities throughout the United States, yet more than 40% of Medicare beneficiaries received care for 14 days or less, considered too short a time to fully benefit from the range of services that hospice offers. And whereas each year hospice saves Medicare more than $2 billion by providing solutions for physicians, care to patients, and comfort to families. And whereas a growing body of peer-reviewed research indicates that timely access to hospice and palliative care can decrease hospitalization and emergency room visits and increase quality of life for patients and family caregivers. And whereas hospice and palliative care providers encourage all people to learn more about options of care and to share their wishes with family, loved ones, and their health care professionals. So now, therefore, I, Scott McBrayer, Mayor of the City of Homewood, hereby proclaim November 2017 as National Hospice and Palliative Care Month in the City of Homewood, and encourage citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of the care at the end of life, and to observe this month with the appropriate activities and programs. And on behalf of our council, the 25,000 residents of and businesses here in the City of Homewood, let me just personally say thank you for all you do for not only the patients, but the families that you serve. Okay? Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Good. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Mayor, I think you have another proclamation as well.
I do. Not working me tonight.
That's pretty. That's pretty.
The next proclamation, I started to say, Chief President, I hated to fire you in public when we got the TV here and all that. So, Chief, I'm going to ask you to come up here with me, and all the men, if we have any of our ladies, our firefighters, if y'all can come up and join me as well. We have a proclamation for the chief, which I understand you didn't know about.
No, I didn't. Actually, no one knows I was looking for an opportunity to speak to the council here tonight.
Good.
But she wasn't forthcoming with that information.
No, well, we don't tell everything we know. Good. Well, we're basically all the folks behind you have come tonight in support and appreciation of your 25 years of service with the city of Homewood. So we have a proclamation for you. We also have a plaque afterwards, and I understand, if I heard correctly, JJ, there's a reception upstairs in the conference room. Okay? Chief, if I can get you to come over here next to me.
Yes, sir.
Whereas Chief John Bresnan joined the Homewood Fire and Rescue Service March 1st, 1987 as a firefighter, and whereas John Bresnan proved to be a brave, dedicated, and honorable firefighter that served our city with dignity, integrity, and pride, that he soon rose through the ranks, and whereas Chief Bresnan was promoted to Fire Chief on November 16th, 1992, and is the City of Homewood's longest-serving fire chief. And whereas Chief Bresnan handles the administrative functions of the Enhanced 911 Center in Jefferson County, Alabama, and whereas in today's world where support freely given is a rare commodity, Chief Bresnan was influential in providing aid to both Pleasant Grove and to Hackleburg during the 2011 tornadoes. And whereas Chief John Bresnan assisted in the implementation of the annual Firefighter of the Year recognition, and whereas Chief Bresnan serves as a former president of the Alabama Fire Chiefs Association, and whereas Chief Bresnan has impacted many lives throughout his service and helped make our community safe and stronger, and whereas Chief John Bresnan has caused the Homewood Fire and Rescue Service to grow and prosper significantly through his hard work and mentoring. Therefore, I, Scott McBrayer, Mayor of the City of Homewood, and on behalf of all of our citizens, hereby commend Chief Bresnan for his distinguished service and congratulate him for his 25 years of selfless service. Chief, on behalf of all the residents, thank you, thank your team for all that you do. We appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Turn it around where they can all look. He's a two-placker. Good. Y'all give him another hand. Chief.
Absolutely. Chief, not to put you on the spot, but if you have any words you want to say, we'd be happy to hear them.
Actually, I started today with the intent of asking you at this meeting to give me an opportunity to speak for just a moment, either at the beginning or at the end of the meeting, to tell you all that I wanted to say thank you to you all and your predecessors and the mayor and his predecessors for giving me the opportunity to serve as fire chief for the last 25 years. It has really, truly been an honor, and I have probably the very best job in the fire service anywhere in the state and probably the Southeast, if not the entire country. So thank you very much for allowing me to do this.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, men and women. We appreciate what each and every one of you do for our city so much. All right, is Tricia Kirk here? I did not see her.
I am here.
Oh, okay, so we have a representative of the Exceptional Foundation.
I figure y'all would rather see me anyway. No,
You're marginally confused, but that's okay.
but no, unfortunately, Trisha's, she's been sick all day. She's got a stomach bug, but I just wanted to come and, on her behalf and myself and the Exceptional Foundation, thank the entire city of Homewood, the city council, the mayor, everyone for y'all's continued support and generosity. You know, we feel like we try to be a pillar of the community, and the support that we get from y'all, really, I just can't tell you what it means to us. And really want to thank y'all for being such good sports about taking one on the chin every year at the basketball game.
That's right. Be careful.
Well, luckily, no one actually took one on the chin last year, so as long as that doesn't happen, we'll be good.
Tell me your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Robbie Lee from the Exceptional Foundation.
Thank you.
I'm not Trisha Kirk. But just again, as a token of our appreciation, we are presenting y'all with a painting of this lovely city hall that one of our artists, Robin McKee, painted. So this, yeah, it was pretty good, huh?
Yes, gosh, yes.
Better than I can do. But yeah, just again, thank y'all so much. Y'all mean the world to us. You know, it comes from the heart. It really does. I'm a lifelong resident of Homewood, and there's just no place better in the world to be, and y'all are a big part of that, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and we'll look forward to that next game, okay? We'll point out that it was your fault, but that's perfectly okay. Is there someone here representing the retired teachers? If not, Mr. Bischoff, we'll save this for another time. Okay, I think that's good. All right. Now, we will, again, we've called this to order. We'll begin with an invocation. Pastor Soul, you're here. Great, great. This is Mayo Soul with the Church of Highlands. If you'll stand for an invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Mayor, thank you so much. Council, thank you guys so much for everything that you do in Homewood. I'm proud to be a citizen here, so let's pray, please. Father, we thank you. We come to you as first men and women and children of God, and we thank you for your grace, and we thank you for most of all your Son, Jesus Christ. We ask you for favor, influence, and protection in the great city of Homewood. We thank you that your hand is upon this city, and your hand is upon these citizens and our children. We thank you for supernatural favor in every area of our life. We thank you for safety. We thank you for shelter. And most of all, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. Thank you for this meeting, that the Holy Spirit is present and everything is accomplished in decency and in order. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. All right, Ms. Salter, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney? Mr. Thames? Mr. Higginbotham? Mr. Wolverton? Mr. McCluskey? Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Mrs. Andress?
Here.
Mr. Wright?
Here.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Here. So we have total attendance tonight, which is good. All right. Next item is the reading of the minutes. We'll start with the council meeting of October 9th, 2017. Chair would welcome a motion and a second to dispense with said readings and approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Ms. Smith. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is unanimous. All right. Also, the minutes of October 23rd, 2017. Chair would again request a motion to dispense with those readings and approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion from Mr. Gwaltney, second from Mr. Wolverton. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, board vacancies and appointments, BZA, Ward 4. We will open that tonight, and We can close that, I'll tell you what, we can close that one December the, well, it's going to be a little hard. I'm sorry, didn't.
Is it Ward 4?
It says BZA Ward 4 opening. Is that correct, Miss?
We had an applicant.
That was Brian Dorman. He's already on it. I think so, you're right.
Yeah, but we do have to open it, so.
Okay.
Let's open it. We'll close it December the 11th at 5:30 before this meeting. Okay.
5:30? 4:30?
4:30. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes.
If you don't mind, Ward 3 would like to, based off of the applications for the Environmental Commission for Ward 3, we would like to appoint John Chaka.
Okay.
Second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second from our two Ward 3 representatives, Mr. McCluskey and Mr. Jones. Any further discussion about that one? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous, and if you'll let him know, we would appreciate that. Also, my understanding is we have a Homewood Environmental Commission opening with Ward 5. Would that be correct?
Yes, we would like to get that open.
Can we have that one open through December 11th as well?
Yes.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, good. So we'll open that one through December 11th at 4:30. All right. We have also an issue with Medical Clinic Board, but we need to make a phone call on that.
And we have 4 applicants right now, not 3.
We have 4 applicants. That's open until the 22nd.
It's open until November 22nd.
I know, but let us make a phone call tomorrow. We'll see. All right. Quickly, we've got some modifications to the agenda. Let me run them for you if I can. There are several. Committee referral, the following ones, 11-11-17, request to consider economic incentive package for the former Mountain Brook Inn property, requested by Mayor McBrayer and Dan Lovell with Graham and Company. This will be referred to Finance. Mr. Jones. 12-11-17, request to consider adding crosswalk addition at Park Ridge and Central Avenue. This would be assigned to Public Safety. Mr. McCluskey. 13-11-17, request to authorize the mayor to bid out recycling services and set bid opening date, requested by Melody Salter, our finance director and city clerk. This too would go to finance. Mr. Jones. 14-11-17, request for consideration of final landscape plan for Service First for $8,200, requested by myself. This too would go to finance. Mr. Jones. And lastly, new business. There's 2 items here, 13-11-17, request to authorize the mayor to bid recycling services and set the bid opening date. And we will set that bid opening date shortly if you approve the amended agenda. Melody Salter, their finance director. And lastly, 15-11-17, request for consideration to change both December and January city council meeting dates. In December, it would be change the second date to December 18th, so we would have a December 11th and a December 18th meeting. And in January, since the first occurs on a Tuesday, then rather than on Monday, I'm sorry, thank you. Then we would do council meetings of January 15th and January 29th. Okay? So we will consider that, again, requested by myself. Chair would welcome a motion
Mr.
for...
Lamar?
Yes.
Do we need to have the sidewalk agenda item on referral to P&D from earlier?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I did not bring that sheet in. What's that number, Ms. Salter? Or maybe I did. Hold on. 160115.
We'll put it in old business.
That is 160115.
Yes, 160115. Update on past, present, and future sidewalk projects. And we're putting it where?
P&D.
P&D. Okay. So that too would be a referral. Okay? All right. Chair would welcome a motion to approve this amended agenda.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from?
Second.
From Mr. White. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous, and we will go forth. We are going to take an item out of order for the sake of the folks we have here. How about 220917, which, bear with me, is the request for update on Homewood Board of Education bond construction project and funding. Walter Jones and Melody Salter, our finance director. We'll begin with a report from finance. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. Our committee met on November the 6th. The committee voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the project as presented by HPM Tommy Alfano, and the Board of Education funding agreement was also approved after review by the council. Mrs. Smith made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Thames. So 4-0 approving both of those items.
Okay, good. All right, so that's our motion is from finance. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Thames. Do we have any further discussion? Mr. Kendrick?
It's a resolution, you know,
I understand.
182.
There being none, yes, 17182. There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous, and that is 17182. So, thank you. You're all welcome to stay, but you weren't hurt our feelings if you leave. Okay, no consent agenda items. Let's go back to old business, 120517. Public hearing set for tonight for consideration of the petition of annexation for the property located at 1400 Shades Crest Road, Melba Kane, Jolene Mills, our city clerk, and this was carried over from 10/23/17 for a public hearing. We'll start with a report from Planning and Development. Mr. Thames.
Yes, sir. The committee, I would assume, voted to send this out without recommendation pending the public hearing.
Okay, great. We will open the public hearing and ask for any comments from the public. Is there anyone here to speak to this?
And I apologize, I think that was the night that Ms. Andrus was chairing for me, is that correct? So you may have notes in front of you.
I do not. It's actually been carried over for many, we
it
probably
has?
reported
Okay.
out on it a while ago. It's been carried over in council for many, many weeks.
Okay.
You probably already reported out on it a time ago.
No problem. Again, this public hearing is open, and we will be happy to have anyone speak to this matter. And if there is no one, we will then close this public hearing. Comments from the council? There being none, Mr. Kendrick. What? I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, have we had anybody speak to this in either committee or council?
Before the public hearing, we said the owner appeared in the committee.
She's here tonight, too.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, good. Reading, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, it's an ordinance to annex to the city of Homewood the property described in the petition for annexation pursuant to Act Number 32 of the Acts of the Legislature of 1964, first extra session. Whereas on the 31st day of August 2016, all the owners of the herein described property did file with the city clerk a petition seeking annexation of certain property described herein and in the petition. And whereas the clerk has set a public hearing to be held on the 13th day of November 2017, at which time and place all persons interested will have an opportunity to provide their thoughts for or against the petition for annexation, whereas a petition and the provisions of law in such cases may provide notice of the public hearing as publishing in the Birmingham News, the newspaper of general circulation on the 20th day of July 2017. And whereas city clerk has reported to the council that no protest or objections to the petition of annexation have been received by the city clerk or at the public hearing held pursuant to the notice published. Whereas at the public hearing, the council has heard no objections and has determined that the petition and facts set therein are true and correct. Now therefore be ordained by the city council that no objections or protests in writing were filed with the clerk, that the matter set forth in the petition are by found and determined by the city to be true and correct, and the parcel of property described in the petition of annexation is described herein. B, and the same is annexed into the city of Homewood. D, that the city clerk is hereby ordered and directed to file or cause to be filed in the office of Judge of Probate, a certified copy of this ordinance together with a certified copy of the petition, and pay all costs and fees incurred pursuant to such section. Section 2, that the, the corporate limits of the city being the same are hereby rearranged to include the above-mentioned described property. And 3, that the provision of this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage and approved by the mayor and otherwise becoming law.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wright. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Yes, second from Ms. Andrus. All right, roll call, Ms. Salter. Wait just a second. You had a question.
I do. I think this has been so long ago that I don't remember the specifics of this case. Are we, Mike, can you explain?
Yeah, here's the map. It shows the process. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I can't,
Very broken.
okay. And it's surrounded by Homewood?
It's surrounded on the one side, and the back side is Homewood.
Right.
That's why we had to have the petition published in 90 days before we could consider it, because
Okay.
it's within the police jurisdiction of 2 cities.
Okay, so that's why it had to take so long.
In the county, it's in the police jurisdiction of 2 cities.
It's in the county because of a DNX from Homewood.
Okay.
Oh,
It's in police jurisdiction.
Yeah. When was it? A year ago.
that one little square. But I mean, well, here's my,
Would you like to show this to Mr. Wolverton, please?
It was DNX before that.
yeah.
It had to be in the county for us to file.
So is that like an easement?
We discussed it like 6 months ago. I mean, this has been on the,
Yeah, Mike, can I have one more question? I'm sorry. So this is her property in the red. What happens with what happens with this? That's kind of the,
It's contiguous to that.
okay. So that's part of, okay.
We only annexing the part that's described in red.
Right.
Based on what Vanessa is giving, you can say that.
Okay.
That's her map.
Okay.
All right, now can we pass that to Mr. Wolverton? Good. That makes sense.
So not the whole lot.
Mr. Kendrick, can
Well,
you
it's
show
not her
Mr.
lot,
Wolverton?
apparently.
Sure.
We're just saying the red
Red.
only.
So
Only
there,
red.
And this just stays county. That's extra property.
It stays, even it's in Hoover County. I'm not sure what the states are doing.
that's actually Hoover.
It's just a pay one. Yeah, why is it not the whole parcel?
Because they annex that portion. It's annexed property in Hoover.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that back to, there you go. All right, now, Ms. Salter, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton? Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So this will be, let's see, ordinance 2675. And Chair would welcome a motion and a second for adoption.
I'll move.
All right, motion for Ms. Andrus. Do we have a second? If we don't have a second,
I'll second.
thank you, Mr. Higginbotham. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call again.
Mr. Gwaltney? You said no? Okay. Mr. Thames?
Yes.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
No.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
No.
Mr. Wyatt?
No.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So it passes 7-4 as my count
Yes, sir.
goes. Is that yours?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's ordinance 2675. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 2507-17, request for consideration and presentation by Daniels Communities, Brit Thames, carried over from 10/23/17. Report from Finance, Mr. Jones.
The committee met, voted 5-0 to recommend approved placing in the budget. Mr. Higginbotham let's see, Mrs. Smith moved for it, and Mr. Higginbotham seconded the motion. 5-0, coming out of finance.
Okay, good. All right, so we have a motion from finance. I'm sorry. We have a motion from finance. So, all in favor, let's do this. Any further discussion on this item?
I would just say that Mr. Kendrick reviewed the contract and sent out a summary, and there were some changes made. And
The changes made to the contract didn't affect my original memorandum.
Okay, good. All right, anything else? If there's not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this passes 11-0. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 1808-17, request for consideration of an ABC 160 special retail license for 918 Catering LLC DBA, doing business as 918 Catering, located at 197 Vulcan Road, requested by Melody Salter, our city clerk. Report from Public Safety, Mr. McCluskey.
Yes, as you know, we've reported on this several times now, and yet again, we're going to have to carry it over because we still do not have approval from the fire department.
Okay. I'm just asking, is there a point at which we drop this, or?
We just send it back to committee.
I say we send it back to public safety.
I mean, if you want to send it
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. That's
before you drop it, I would.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think we drop it because we already have half of what we need. We're just,
Okay, we'll carry it over, but
that's
in
fine.
2 weeks, then
If
we're going to
they're
send
not,
it. At
if
least
they are
send it
not
back.
ready in 2 weeks, then we will.
Is this a business problem or a fire department problem?
It's the business's problem. They don't have everything required by fire completed yet. Police background checks are done, and fire has gone in there and done several different things, but they don't have everything done.
Me too.
Yep.
When I spoke to Chief President about all they're waiting on now is a locksmith to come in and change out the color of the doors.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, so we're close.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that information. All right, we will carry 1808-17 over. All right, next is 2509-17, public hearing set for tonight for consideration for the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan, requested by Vanessa McGrath, our BEZ department, and again carried on from 1023-17 for public hearing. Let's start with a report from P&D, Planning and Development. Mr. Times, do you have that report, or does someone else?
I think he had reported
We've
it out
already
earlier
reported
because I think P&D recommended approval, but it was pending the public hearing, without recommendation, pending public hearing, but it was several meetings ago.
No problem. We will open this public hearing. And Ms. McGrath, go.
Yes, everybody should have received at least a digital copy of the ADA transition plan. I do have representatives from Sane Associates that would like to come speak with y'all.
Come forward.
Mr. President, board members, thank you.
Tell us who you are.
So I'm Nathan Curry with Sane Associates and also a resident of Homewood.
Okay, what's your address?
154 Lucerne Boulevard.
Good.
Yeah.
Now.
All right, thanks. So I know you guys are familiar with this a bit. So just a brief overview, the American with Disabilities Act from 1990 requires equal access for individuals with disabilities. Part of that requires that a transition plan be developed for the city's programs and services that don't currently comply. And so the city is contracted with us to help take a look at public right-of-ways, specifically sidewalks, curb ramps, that sort of thing. So we have gone out and I guess kind of 4 things that the plan really addresses. The first is you have to put together an inventory of what you have, kind of take a look at it. So we've gone out and looked at the sidewalks, the curb ramps, the crosswalks, that sort of thing. And we've kind of compiled that inventory in some maps that are within this plan, also in like a GIS database that the city will have also. So that's kind of the first step to see what is not in compliance with the ADA's technical regulations that are out now. So the second step is kind of putting together a strategy or some methods to come into compliance. So that is in the plan. And really, the biggest step of that was to put together a phased approach. As a resident, I'm thankful there's a lot of sidewalks within the city. So the approach we've gone with here is to just inventory a portion of them now and determine how to address that problem, and then in about 5 years to inventory some more. So really there was two items used to kind of prioritize those. One was the usage. So in talking with Vanessa and Greg, we've taken a look at the highest usage areas, really the downtown part of the city, and then starting from the schools and working out. So we basically went within about a quarter of a mile of the schools to see the condition of those sidewalks and what would need to be done to improve them. And the other thing we looked at was the severity of it. So as we went out there and checked it to see how it met the requirements, we kind of ranked that to see what was the case that needed the most attention most immediately. So another big piece of the strategy and how to address it is public involvement, and that's part of the reason for today, welcoming any feedback we can get from the public. So the plan has been posted on the city's website and a few different places around town so that the public has the opportunity to look at it and provide any feedback. There's a comment form that's available there, and I also have a few here if anyone would like to see it today. We also met with some representatives that kind of represent people with disabilities and got their feedback in the process of developing the plan. So this isn't the first time that someone from the public's had a chance to take a look. Another piece of this, we helped develop an ADA policy statement and a grievance procedure for if someone does have a complaint, this is the place to go, and kind of addresses how to manage that. And then the third piece of the plan is a schedule, putting together a schedule for how to achieve these improvements and come into compliance. And I guess in summary, the city having a lot of sidewalks, like a lot of other cities in the area, it's a multi-year approach. It's not something that can be done now entirely. So we've kind of taken a look at the highest priority items, the most severe, deficiencies, and plan to, in talking with the city, the plan is to devote or attempt to devote about $100,000 a year to address those highest priority items. And then in 5 years, take a look again. The last piece, the important requirement of the law is that someone be designated as responsible for implementing that, implementing the plan. So an ADA coordinator was designated, and that's Greg Cobb. So that's just a quick summary, and welcome any feedback or any questions you have. I have the plan with me. So,
thank you. Any questions of the council?
Have you received any input from the public yet?
We have not received anything yet from what's posted online. We did meet with some representatives beforehand, but nothing from just general residents and such.
All right, thank you.
Quick question. Once the plan is adopted, is there a requirement to achieve the goals of that plan within a certain period of time?
So really the law is to be sure that it is reasonable, achievable, and it's also kind of a living document. So, as the city gets a couple of years down the road, it's recommended that the ADA coordinator keep track of that. If updates need to be made because of funding or new priorities or feedback that's received from the public, that may change as time goes on. So it's really, this is to make this ADA compliant and address, to show that the city is giving a priority to that. So it's really up to the city to be sure that we're on schedule with that, or adjusting the schedule as needed based on whatever may arise, problems and such, or new sidewalk that are installed. So.
Thank you. Mr. Wright.
Just want to be clear. So to follow up on that, if the city's making a good faith effort every year, expending funds over a large period of time, this is okay.
That's right.
Okay.
If the city's complying with the plan that they've set forth, that's right.
And if it's a long-term plan, have you seen any other municipal plans with regard to timetables for these plans?
So we've worked with some other cities around the area and seen some others just across the U.S. that have been put together. And a lot of it may depend on how much infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure they have out there, sidewalk and such. So some cities may be on a 10-year plan, and some cities may be on a a 20-year plan, and it really depends on how much sidewalk you have out there and what funding you can dedicate to it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this? All right, if not, we will close this public hearing. Comments from the council? There being none, Chair would welcome a motion and a second to accept this proposal. Motion from Mr. Gwaltney.
Second.
Second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. And that is Resolution 17-184. Thank you very much. We will move onward to 04-1017, request for consideration to authorize the mayor to sign a 3-year WAN maintenance contract. James Yates, report from Finance, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The Finance Committee voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the WAN contract. It's $84.50 a month, so 4-0 coming out of Finance.
All right, so we have a motion from Finance.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm still waiting on some other information from Mr. Zanatti that could save us significant amounts.
So you do want us to carry this over?
Well, at this point, I would ask you to send it back to Finance and
Okay.
let them
We're
reconsider.
all up for saving additional funds.
Sure.
That's was our previous report, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll move to send it back to Finance.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, y'all are ahead of me. Motion from Mr. James, second from Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it is back to Finance.
Thank you, Mayor.
There you go. 23-1017, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a front yard wall variance at 3107 Whitehall Road, requested by Indy Frasiglio, Dwight Pugh, our BEZ Department. Report from Special Issues.
Yes, the committee met on November 6th and voted 5-0 to send this item out to the council without recommendation pending the public hearing tonight. Motion was made by Mr. Higginbotham, seconded by Mr. Gwaltney, and Brett Bloomston, the homeowner, is here tonight and was at the meeting on the 6th, so we sent that out without recommendation.
Good. All right, let's open this public hearing and come forth, state your name and address.
Good evening, Brett Bloomston. I am the homeowner at 3107 Whitehall. 3107 Whitehall is in the kid zone, if y'all are familiar with the area, and we live in a house that my wife has been in for about 5 years, and about 2 years ago when we married, we renovated it, kept a bungalow type house, but we're dreadfully short on parking on Whitehall. We enlisted Lorberbaum McNarrow Dresden, which is a residential and commercial landscaping and architecture firm. They actually came up with the plan that's before the council, and I understand that y'all do have copies of what we have submitted.
We do.
What is proposed, and I understand the reason for the variance, is because the fence, or it's called a fence, it's actually a 22-inch brick wall. The proposed wall does come off the front of the house, which would require the variance in this situation. But basically, this part, we're trying to create a parking court, something that is tasteful. It would be painted brick, the same color of the house, and it would prevent it look like we were just parking cars in our front yard. The proposal is that it is landscaped with nice native looking shrubberies and illuminated to where there's some eye appeal from the street. Native Landscape is Mr. Versiglio's company, but he was tied up today, and I told him I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Questions? Mr. Jones.
I apologize, I was not at the meeting, but what is the hardship? You have to have a hardship in order to be granted a variance. Is there any type of hardship?
I can't proffer that there's a hardship.
Okay.
I think that certainly and frankly, I wasn't aware that that was the burden to carry. But there is no hardship. It is aesthetic. It would be much nicer to look at from the street as it would be, for folks passing by. And we are, again, talking about a 22-inch, less than 2 feet tall, brick painted wall.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else who wants to speak to this matter, for or against? Mr. Pugh, you're not speaking? Okay.
Question.
Yes.
On the parking surface itself, I know apparently we currently don't allow pea gravel as you had it drawn. What do you plan to use?
The house next to us is under construction, or as I have said, destruction for the last several months. We are going to have to split the driveway that runs right here, and what I believe we'll do is propose to take out that brick and just have driveway asphalt poured.
That answer your question, Mr. Toombs?
Sadly, yes. We need to update our
We were hoping for aesthetics.
Well, I mean, we can do whatever, and certainly with pea gravel, that crushed pea gravel, that was brought to our attention. I talked to Mr. Versiglio today. He said, the wall is the issue right now. If we get what's been called a fence, but if we get this perimeter approved, we can use any media that the city approves of. We just need places to put the vehicles.
We understand. All right. Anything else? We're going to close this public hearing. Comments from the council. I have a sense there may be one or two. Comments?
I'll go ahead and comment, because since it came out of my committee. I think we've had issues with front yard walls and fences before that haven't been approved, and we certainly appreciate Mr. Bloomston coming before the committee and doing this the right way, for sure. But part of the burden of getting a variance is proving that you do have a hardship. And while I think this looks fantastic, I'm not sure the burden of the hardship has been met. I think it could look beautiful with landscaping as the wall, if you wanted to put it that way. I'm not sure the wall itself is definitely, I mean, it's something that I would be probably not for.
All right. Mr. Kendrick, am I getting good information that there has to be proven a hardship? Is that the?
You have to be convinced of, let me just say this to you, you've approved variances before without declaration of hardship,
So we're not setting a precedent. I'm just laying that out there.
If you're going to put a front yard wall in, you need to have a good reason. And I'm not sure that's present here.
I understand. Any other comments?
I would just echo what Ms. Smith said. I'm a little concerned about sort of opening up Pandora's box here by allowing it where it's not needed, although I do compliment you on the design and think it will look great regardless of whether there's a wall there, but I am a little concerned about allowing front yard walls in general.
Not trying to be argumentative, but based on what Mr. Kendrick said, Pandora's box has already been opened and spewed forth, but go ahead.
Well, that's not the case in this particular circumstance, because we have been very, as a council, opposed to front yard walls and fences.
I understand that. No, I just want to make sure we're looking at all sides of it. I'm not, okay. That being the case.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mr. Wright.
I would echo those same thoughts, and it is very nicely done by Mr. Bloomston, and I understand the difficulty of doing what he's doing. And my hope and my advice is for him to get a barrier that doesn't meet the definition of a wall. Get some landscaping that can circumvent the wall criteria, so that you can have that beautification around that area and you can still have it closed in. But I'm right with you. I'd want to build it too, but I'm afraid I'd come here from my council colleagues and they'd tell me no too. So, but yeah, well, definitely me. So, but that would be my recommendation. But just.
Thank you.
The definition of fence under the existing ordinance includes shrubbery.
I understand it does, and that's why I'm saying to be shrewd on how you construct that.
Mr. Wolverton?
Well, that touches on what I was going to try and clarify, which is that it looked like there was some shrubbery behind where the wall was going to be.
I understand.
There is There is a height requirement, is there not, Mike?
On the shrubbery?
Yeah.
Not that I recall.
It's just that it states that you can't physically go through it when you walk passage through.
Okay.
That's when it becomes.
We'll have it sparse so that, it can accomplish a barrier, but passable.
I'm abstaining. I'm a former business partner with Mrs. Bloomston. So
I'm sorry, what?
I'm abstaining. I'm a former business partner of Mrs. Bloomston. So
It's okay. Well, let's see if we can have a motion and a second for approval, and then have a vote. Motion, okay. Motion by Mr. Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Smith. All right, since we have some concerns, I'm going to take the liberty, Robert, of doing a roll call on this, okay?
Yes, sir.
Start with Mr. Gwaltney.
Mr. Gwaltney? No. Mr. Thames?
No, sir.
Mr. Higginbotham?
No.
Mr. Wolverton? No. Mr. McCluskey?
No, sir.
Mr. Jones?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
No, thank you. Mrs. Smith?
No.
Mr. Wyatt?
No.
Mrs. Andrus?
abstain.
Abstain.
Mr. Wright?
No.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Well, I guess I'll say no. And that is unfortunately a unanimous no. Okay, we'll move on. All right, 270816, request for consideration of additional lighting on Ballet Avenue, requested by Brit Thames. Report from Finance, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, we have two lighting items back to back here. 4-0 to recommend approval for the lighting on Valley. This is coming out of the 7-cent gas tax, $94.57 up front, and then line item 0422-489-381. And then $15.93 annually from line item 0422550220. So 4-0 coming out of Finance.
All right, so we have a motion from Finance. Do we have any other discussion? Excuse me, sorry. There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is Resolution 17-185, and that is approved. 020916, request for consider lighting on State Farm Parkway, requested by Peter Wright. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The same funding source, it's 4-0 again recommendation, and the upfront cost is $71,331. And then 5416 annually from that same line item, 0422-550220. 4-0 coming out of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any other comments? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous, 17-186. All right, 06-1017, request to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Birmingham Jefferson Transit Authority for fiscal year 17-18 services and funding, requested by Melody Salter, our finance director. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. The committee voted 4-0 to recommend the mayor sign the contract with BJCTA. We added the stipulation that we require quarterly and financial reporting by the BJCTA, which would include ridership as part of the reporting. So 4-0 coming out of Finance.
All right.
Does the draft I sent you meet the requirement?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we have a motion from Finance. Do we have any further discussion at all? Anyone? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So this is Resolution 17-187. Thank you very much. 040917, request for consideration to add a stop sign at the intersection of Mayfair and Wellington, requested by Mr. Wright. And report from Public Safety, Mr. McCluskey.
Yes, Mr. President. Upon recommendation from Randy Handley and the Traffic Department of the Public Safety Committee voted 5-0 to recommend approval to the council. The motion was made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Wyatt.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kendrick.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. This is the stop sign.
Okay, thank you. This is an ordinance to regulate traffic in the city of Homewood. That every person, firm, or corporation operating a motor vehicle is defined in the highway code in an easterly direction on along Mayfield Drive in the city of Homewood should cause a motor vehicle to come to a complete stop intersection of Mayfield Drive with the westerly right-of-way line of Wellington Road in the city. Section 2, no person, firm, or corporation shall park a motor vehicle within 30 feet of the intersection of Wellington Road, Mayfield Drive. And Section 3, that any provision of the ordinance person found guilty would be punished as provided by Section 1-8 of the Code of Ordinances. Section 4, that the chief of police shall erect or cause to be erected appropriate lines or stop signs at the intersections and places described in Sections 1 and 2 above. Section 5, the ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the City Council.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent. Second. Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Mr. Higginbotham. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. All right, so this will be, what's the, no, hold on.
2676.
2676, and the chair would welcome a motion for adoption. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. McCluskey. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes, 2676 is passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Okay. 200917, request for consideration of an ABC 040 retail beer on and off premises and an ABC 060 retail table wine on and off premises for Hero Acquisition Company LLC, doing business as Hero Donuts, located at 3027 and 3029 Central Avenue. Melody Salter, our city clerk. Public safety.
Yes, Mr. President, we've received approval by both police and fire, so I would move to having no objection to the issuance of the license.
Great. So with the recommendation of public safety, is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that, too, is unanimous. And 200917 is passed. Committee referral agenda, Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Gwaltney?
Gwaltney, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'll learn to look up, Mr. Gwaltney.
I'll speak up.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Let's move on to other new business, of which we have a few items. 041117, request to set a public hearing for consideration of the zoning application of the City of Homewood to rezone 68, 70, and 90 Bagby Drive, 245, 255 Goodwin Crest Drive, from C1 Office Business District to I2 Institutional District for the purpose of permitting construction of the proposed Homewood Public Safety Center. And as a note, this request was considered by the Homewood Planning Commission at its meeting November 7th, 2017, resulting in a favorable vote of 5-0, requested by Vanessa McGrath in our BEZ department. We will set this public hearing for December the 11th, 2017 at 6 p.m. Okay? 061117, request for consideration of the funding agreement with AlDOT for the 18th Street project, requested by Greg Cobb in our BEZ department. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
So moved. Second.
All right. Motion from Mr. Thames, second from Mr. Higginbotham. Okay, there we go. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous, and that is Resolution 17188. Okay, 071117, request to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Class Tran and to fund appropriately for fiscal year 17-18, requested by the city treasurer and our finance committee. Did we have a report on that?
It was in the budget. It was approved in the budget. You just
Okay,
have to
it's in the
authorize
budget, so that wasn't necessary.
For that.
All right, motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. Thames. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is Resolution 17-189, and that is approved. All right, we move on to 08-11-17, request for consideration of funding for the work in the city right-of-way at 600 Oak Grove Road, requested by Greg Cobb in our BEZ department.
Can
Chair,
I speak to that in Greg's absence?
yes, go ahead, Mr. Kendrick.
I called him this morning and realized that he was still in the hospital. So I think in the last month, I know that JJ and I met him on site several weeks ago about the work. It's the work adjacent to the new restaurant being built over in West Homewood. I sent you a map today that shows the color for it. It's the right-of-way work, which would be the curb and gutter and extension of the sidewalk adjacent to that right-of-way. And each Cobb had looked at a proposal from the contractor that's on site about doing this work versus us doing our contracting again, and said that the contractor price was fair and reasonable, would be in our best interest. The problem with the contractor is about to finish with the concrete work out there, and they've been calling, and I think during Greg's absence, there's been a kind of a gap. So they're panicking that they need to get, the contractor was going to leave on Friday, and I told him it was on the agenda for Monday, and I'll report back tomorrow if we have questions, if we're not going to go in that direction. If it's Greg's recommendation, and I think JJ can vouch for this, that we do it this way is to be the most costly savings way to do the work, since they're on the site and there, and it can be done without us having to bid it because it's a public work project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Any other questions of Mr. Kendrick? If they're not, Chair would welcome a motion in a second.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from Mr. McCluskey. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And that is unanimous, and that is Resolution 17-190. Okay, 09-11-17, request for consideration of an ordinance for a crosswalk at Bonita Drive and Poinciana Drive on the north side of the neighborhood, requested by Jennifer Andrus. Question, Mr. Kendrick, we originally noted that as a resolution. Do we need to rescind that resolution?
It is an ordinance.
Well, I know. So
You can rescind the resolution and just adopt the new ordinance.
all right, so
It's the same ordinance that was presented to you at the last meeting.
right, I understand. So the question is, or the motion should be a motion to rescind the ordinance, I mean, the resolution, I'm sorry.
And approve the
Are you making that motion, Mr. Wright?
I am, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Motion by Mr. Wright, second by
Well, second, I want to just clarify that's on.
Ms. Andrus.
I just want to clarify, it says it's on the north side of the neighborhood. I guess that means that Poinciana North is, we discussed, Mr. Kendrick and I talked about it. It's actually on Bonita, on the west side of Poinciana.
If you'll let me find it. The way I drafted the ordinance that I sent you on Friday says that it is a pedestrian crosswalk across Bonita on the west side of the intersection.
That's right. I'm just
Bonita
looking at here
Drive
on the
and
agenda.
Poinciana
Yeah, I just
Drive.
want to make sure. Yeah, correct. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So,
There's really two things here. You'll have to rescind that resolution
We will.
1776 and then adopt the ordinance.
right. So, the motion has been made with a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, so that rescinds the resolution. Now, do you need to again do the first reading?
Yes, sir, I think it'd be best, certainly if there's any questions. This is an ordinance to provide for the installation of a pedestrian crosswalk across Bonita Drive in the west side of the intersection of Poinciana Drive with Bonita, that the chief of police be directed to install a pedestrian crosswalk across Bonita on the west side of the intersection of Bonita Drive and Poinciana Drive as directed by the chief of police. Section 2, that all drivers of motor vehicles defined by the code are to yield to pedestrians within the crosswalk defined above. Section 3, any person found in violation of this ordinance should be punished as provided by Section 1-8 of the Code of Ordinances. Section 4, that all other ordinances or parts of ordinance contrary to these provisions are specifically repealed. Florida. Section 5, that any part of provision or order is declared to be unconstitutional or invalid by the court of competent jurisdiction, all other parts not affected thereby shall remain in full force and effect. Section 6, that the provision of this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its adoption by the city council and the approval by the mayor, or its otherwise becoming law.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Mr. Higginbotham. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jones?
He's left.
Okay, Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So this will be ordinance 2677. We need a motion and a second for adoption.
So, second.
Motion from Mr. McCluskey, second from Ms. Andrus. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thames?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jones, okay. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes, 2677 is unanimously adopted. All right, 10, 11, 17, request for consideration of approval of vouchers for the period of October 22nd, 2017 through November 5th, 2017. And I understand, Mr. Wright, you're the recipient.
I am the victim, and had a wonderful Sunday, myself and these receipts, and had more joyous time today with Melody's and her staff's good help, and we went through all the questions and all approved. So I would ask for the vouchers for that period of time, October 22nd through November 5th, be approved.
So that you are making that motion.
Yes,
Who
ma'am.
would second that for him?
Second.
Second from Mr. Thames. Any further questions or comments? If there are none, all in favor, please say yes. Aye. Or yes. Okay. Just wanted to see if you were listening. That is Resolution 17-191. Two more items, 13, 11, 17. Request to authorize the mayor to bid recycling services and set bid opening date. What's that going to be, Mayor?
We're asking for December 18th.
December 18th.
5 o'clock, and then we could report out to council if Mr. Jones was okay with that, but he left.
All right, December 18th is when we will set that, okay? Good, thank you. All right, finally, 15, 11, 17, request for consideration to change December and January of 18 city council meeting dates, bless you, to December 11th, 2017, December 18th, 2017 for December. January would be January 15th, 2018, and January 29th, 2018. And again, the reason being that New Year's Day is a Monday, and that would be a day for committee meetings the way it would be set otherwise, and I assume we don't want to do that. So,
Mr. Chairman, did you say the 15th of January?
I think that's what I said. These are for the count, we're changing the council meeting dates.
Well, that's MLK Day. I don't know if that's a concern or not, but just point that
Well, I
out.
mean, it's a good question. I don't have a January 18 calendar to show me
Let's see.
holidays.
I should have caught that. I'm sorry. I didn't look at it. I was thinking it was the 15th is Martin Luther King Day, so the city's closed.
Yes, it is. Well, I mean, you know, the 22nd and 29th is an awfully long time to go from the 18th of December to the 22nd of, help me here, Mr. Kendrick.
Could we have committee meetings and council meeting on the 8th?
No, we cannot do that. Nice try.
I mean,
Try again.
could we meet both committees and council on the 8th?
Well,
We could if we have to.
my hope is that...
National championship.
Well, I can't help
My
that.
friends from the loveliest village,
Listening to this. Just do it.
Listen, my team did the best to make that not happen.
they did, and it didn't happen.
But it will come November 25th. So.
What about Tuesday? Tuesday?
I am trying so hard here. No, I understand. We can't do the 15th.
We did this last year, too, just to clarify.
Who knows?
Oh, I know. No.
Not the first.
I need another recommendation. Do you think you want to do it Tuesday night, the 16th?
Yeah, let's do it Tuesday night, 16th.
Depends on what time.
All right,
6 o'clock?
Mr. Kendrick, we're looking at Tuesday, the 16th, and then Monday, the 29th, okay? And that'll work. Chair would welcome a motion.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Andrus, second from Mr. Gwaltney. So with that, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Can
Any
you tell me that
opposed?
again? I didn't, you said the 29th and what?
The 16th, Tuesday night.
Is this move going
That's
to
gonna be
be
council meeting
permanent
on the
despite
16th.
the outcome of the next several weeks?
It's going to be permanent.
Or we could move it back come
It's going to be permanent.
November
All right,
27th.
with that,
One question real quick. So would we act like I didn't hear that Tuesday the 9th?
we could.
No,
Or are we talking about doing?
oh, I didn't think about that.
We could. Let's get closer to make that determination, but we could.
Okay.
No, I understand. Mayor?
But not except keep regular thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely. That was going to be my comment. Mr. Gwaltney?
I would like to announce Brit and I will be hosting our Ward 1 community meeting for our neighbors and residents, friends and family, on 12/12 at 7 p.m. at the Homewood Rec Center
Yes,
event room. So all the council is welcome to join us as well, and hope to see lots of our neighbors there. Also, Union Baptist Church in Rosedale will be celebrating their 100th anniversary on Saturday.
Wow.
Starting around lunchtime, so if you can swing by and say hello, it'll be a good event to attend. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thames?
Does Mr. Jones still have the standing 5 o'clock for?
Yes, sir.
Well, he does until we get past the school allocations.
And do we think he's going to need 30 minutes next week?
Let's see, you're a member of that.
Should probably listen.
So, Mr. Thames, 30 minutes?
Okay, well then I'll do P&D at 5:30, then we can review the updated sidewalk list and maybe have some sort of beginning of proposal on managing that.
This is 11:20, correct, for the Monday?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And
How long do you want?
15 minutes. And I think we can probably take that painting from the Exceptional Foundation and retire the Taylor Hicks autograph.
I think that would be a great idea.
I'll just bring that Taylor Hicks with me. Just kidding.
I think that'd be a great idea. Thank you, Mr. Thames. Mr. Higginbotham?
Thank you, Mr. President. The only item I wanted to bring to folks' attention is that tomorrow night, West Homewood Farmers Market will be having an unusual Tuesday night market in the winter for them. They are holding the market to try to raise money for hurricane relief for Texas and the Caribbean islands in Florida. And so that is going to be from 6 to 9 p.m. at their normal location, which is the parking lot of Shades Valley Community Church. It's going to be pretty much like most of their West Homewood farmers markets. They're going to have vendors and music and just a great time. Invite everybody to come out. It's going to be an enjoyable evening, I'm quite certain, in addition to helping some folks that really need some help right now. Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Wolverton?
Yes, second that, and my wife is actually going to have a booth set up, so come by and say hi. Let's see. Just wanted to clarify too, Mike and I had been hosting our meetings every 3 months on the third Thursday, but we had decided to postpone that, so we're tentatively looking at December 7th for anybody that might be watching the recording here, but otherwise we'll post it on social media and let people know that way as well. Other than that, I think that's it.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. McCluskey?
Yes, what time did you have?
6.
5:30 to 5:45.
I thought you wanted 30 minutes.
He said 15.
Oh, he made it less.
The only thing that has any possibility of going long for me would be what's on the referral agenda for public safety from you guys at the middle school. Do I need 30 minutes for that?
Probably not. I'm not even sure if Randy will have the chapter 7 guidelines. Pretty simple.
Okay. All right, so if I do 15, should be fine. Okay. So I'll do 5:45 to 6. Till 6.
Okay.
And that's it.
Great, thank you. Ms. Smith?
First and most importantly, the Patriots won a dramatic comeback game last Friday night in their first round of the playoffs versus Fort Payne. We decided to spot the other team 21 points and try to fight back in the second half, which was super exciting and nerve-wracking, and they did it. So we play our next round of the playoffs Friday night at Waldrop versus Clay Chalkville, where we cannot afford to spot anybody any points. So come out and watch it. It's really exciting, y'all, and they need lots of support, and it's so great to see people with little kids and no kids and grandparents and everybody else out there supporting the team. So please come, 7 o'clock Friday night at Waldrop Stadium. And I will set special issues for 6.
Yes. How much time do you need?
Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3.
30 minutes?
No, I don't think that rezoning is going to take much time. Decorative light pole, city right away. I think we can probably do 15.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. White?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Andrews?
I would like to wish recovery for Greg. I would like to wish a happy belated birthday to Mayor McBrayer. Happy birthday to Mr. Kendrick. I wanted to congratulate Janie Mayer and Daphne Dixon. Just blanked on her name. They, with Homewood Witches Ride, they had over 540 people sign up. I'm going to make sure I've got that right name. And they raised $35,000 for Homewood Witches Ride. So let me get that name. Daphne Dickinson, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to congratulate them and just say we're so blessed to have them in Homewood and how proud of them we are. I want to congratulate the Homewood High School cross-country teams. The girls were runners-up. Celie Jackson was second overall for 6A, and then I wanted to recognize the boys who won state 6A, and Will Stone finished number 1 in 6A.
Great. Thank you. Absolutely. Mr. Wright?
Yeah, we'll do Public Works at 6:15, and should
How many
be
items do you have?
1. And that's iffy, but that's where we are now.
Thank you.
And I was going to just make a comment about thanks to everyone for supporting and approving the school plan tonight. It was a long journey that came to a quasi-conclusion with regard to this part of the journey. And so thanks to everyone for that. That was a big step forward, and look forward to them doing their hard work and seeing what comes our way with our renovated schools, all 5 of them. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you. Mr. Bischoff pointed out to me that we have a resolution that while we didn't have anyone attend for this, he felt like we needed to get it on record. So let me quickly read resolution number 17192. Is this what you wanted me to
It's
do?
193, I think.
193?
Because we had to do a proclamation, sorry, we had to do a resolution for y'all changing the dates, which was 192.
Okay, so 17193. And this was put forth by a retired public education teacher, whereas public education, tying into what Mr. Wright had to say, public education is the foundation of our society and is the most critical element in the process and enlightenment of our state and union, and whereas the public educators in our educational system have carried the torch of knowledge, opening doors to the challenge and excitement of learning for countless youths, and whereas public educators, because of their deep and abiding love of children, have displayed a commitment to their students and dedication to their profession, and whereas our state's retired public educators have served long careers laboring through their tenures to educate our state school children, and whereas retired public educators throughout Alabama are deserving of the highest praise and recognition our state can bestow for devotion to their professions, now therefore be it resolved by this council tonight, we do hereby proclaim November 14th, 2017 as Retired Teachers Day in Homewood, in the city of Homewood, and encourage all citizens to join together in paying tribute to the retired public educators. Then we will adopt this on November 2017, and as I say, it's Resolution 17193. Move for approval from Mr. McCluskey, second from Mr. Wright. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is unanimously approved. And if you will get that information to them, we appreciate it. And with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.